Welcome and thank you for joining the SEEDS event today. I am Nafi Abdullah, your SEEDS program manager. I will be providing technical support for today's event, so if you run into any trouble, please use the chat feature to contact me directly. At this time, if you all can give me a thumbs up that you can hear me, that'll be great. Awesome. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping notes. Again, today's event is being recorded. Please note that your microphone was muted by default when you logged into the meeting. However, you all are encouraged to type comments and questions in the chat where I will be facilitating that conversation. And all questions can be asked throughout the event and at the end of the event. Live captioning is enabled in Teams. You can click the More Actions button, which is the three dots at the top of the screen. Then click the Language and Speech, select Turn on Live Captions, select English, and then click on Confirm. Finally, your feedback is very important to me. At the conclusion of today's event, a link to a brief survey will appear. I would really love to hear what you think so I can continue to improve and update this series. Next slide, please. At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Natalie Pickering, who currently works for the Veterans Health Administration as a psychologist with Vision 9 Organization and Development. Dr. Pickering, we are honored that you are here with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and it's great to be with you all. I've done several presentations over the years for VBA, so maybe I've had a chance to hang out with some of you previously. I'm aware that today's topic is very timely. We've all got our return to office in place. I would encourage you, as you listen, to just take one practical takeaway. And also wanted to give you a little bit of background. My career in VA started in the post-traumatic stress disorder clinic. So my clinical specialty is in trauma and moral injury. Then I was an EAP manager, employee assistance program, and that pivoted me to organizational development psychology. So I've done direct patient care. I certainly thank you for your role in being mission aligned and supporting our veterans. So without further ado, my goal is to give you some language and maybe a framework for what we all are experiencing. So I just wanted to open, and I've got some leadership specific things here. I personally believe that everyone is leading. I like to use the term influence as synonymous with leadership. But just think generally about your own relationship with change. Some people actually love change. Some people are more change resistant. That is personality dependent. Also, the factors of the change certainly make a difference. But just some big picture thoughts as we get started here. Your relationship with change, how can you lead change support in whatever your circle of influence is? And then most importantly, how are you leading yourself in all of this big change that seems very constant every single day? Change is challenging, even for those who have what we call more change tolerance than others. I think especially change that we're not choosing is more challenging. It is inevitable. And again, people vary in what we call their change tolerance and change resistance. If you're familiar with any of the change management sort of approaches, they talk about change fatigue, right? And I think that really captures a lot of people's experience right now. That's why I've got the image of this bucket overflowing with water. And I think at a deeper level, change brings some big questions, and those are normal. I think validating that we don't have answers to questions. All levels of leadership are challenged in not knowing answers to questions. Um, that's part of what is really uncomfortable about the whole thing. And I think if you are a leader, there is this additional stress and change stress of trying to support your team effectively, trying to support your colleagues effectively while you're navigating your own questions and your own relationship with change. So I just want to make space for all of the above. I will also note we I've added some more, not to this deck because I turned this in several weeks ago, but there's a term I'll come back to a little bit later, and I want to introduce it here, but it's called liminal space. And basically, liminal space is that really uncomfortable tension, ambiguity of, okay, we know things aren't what they were, and we can't see what they are. And that term is really resonating with a lot of people that I'm supporting in my coaching and consulting. So, again, just to give you a framework for your own experience, change stress. So, these definitions stress by definition, specific and non specific responses. So, all of us are having those individual responses to events that are disturbing our equilibrium or exceeding our ability to cope. If anybody is not experiencing this, I would love to talk with you after the session. Um, and we've got this stress curve. So traumatic stress, a shocking, emotionally overwhelming situation. It may involve actual or threatened death, serious injury, or threat to physical integrity. So again, stress exists on a continuum, and there's also an ebb and flow. So how you feel in this moment may change 5 minutes from now, may change 1 hour from now. That is normal. There are physical responses to stress. So all of these factors pictured here. A lot of people that I'm talking to, carry tension in their upper shoulders or GI issues. Some people report, their face is breaking out as a result of stress. Their hair is falling out. So certainly, under high levels of stress, we can see physical impact of that. You may be familiar with this. The brain responds in different ways to stress. The interesting thing, you may respond to a stressor in fight or flight, and you may respond to the next stressor in a very different way. And I think that's really important for us to remember for ourselves. And it's important for us to remember for the people that we're working with. They may respond this way today, they may respond in this way tomorrow. Oh, Nafi, I'm so sorry. She found her first gray hair as a result of the stress. Um, but again, just because you respond fight, it may be a freeze the next time. So again, that amygdala, which is the part of the brain where fear and anger live, it's always assessing our safety. And then when a threat is detected, this response chain kicks in. But we can buy time. And if you're familiar with the term emotional intelligence, it's actually what I'm referring to. We can buy time between that emotional experience of the stress and what we do in response to it. So I've got some practical strategies here. Again, my goal, giving you language, giving you tools. So let's start with that. You may be familiar with the whole health circle. If you get a copy of these slides, that link is hyperlinked so that you can access those resources. But I like looking at the whole health circle, and maybe this is your takeaway, is to just take a few minutes. How is stress impacting me relationally? How is it impacting me spiritually? How is it impacting me emotionally? and to move around this circle and just do a baseline check-in with yourself. So I noted some of those physical responses. Here are some others that I'm hearing in conversations: sleep, appetite, those aches and pains. Again, not uncommon when we're talking about such high levels of stress. I want to move to emotional impact. And so, right now, I just want you to turn your attention to your own emotions and to check in with yourself how you're feeling. Maybe you feel like this or this. You might not even know how you're feeling in this very moment, and that's okay too. That's right. Thank you, Joanne. There's certainly a back and forth for those stages. So maybe there's anger, loneliness. I know a lot of people are talking about, those of us who are working in this situation. It's really hard to communicate or explain to others sometimes what the actual experience is. I see that. Confusion, exhaustion, yes. Sadness, fear. That's right, Leanne. And interestingly, what some of you are noting, what's happening to us emotionally translates to a behavior, right? So the combination of these emotions certainly impacts how we show up or not show up. So, yeah, some of you resonating with fear, absolutely. I want to remind you emotions have a job. So, anger, right, is asking what boundary has been crossed? What feels unprotected? That's the job of anger. If you've never seen Inside Out, that's your homework. The movie Inside Out and Inside Out 2 and the roles of emotions. Diane will actually come back to that point. What is loneliness asking? Why do I feel disconnected? Confidence is also connected to loneliness. Yep, there you go. So again, the emotion that you're having is asking you a question. And I want you to consider your emotions as data, right? When we know what the data is, we know what the question is asking, now we can intentionally respond for ourselves, for those that we're leading and working with. Sad is simply asking what has been lost. And it seems obvious, but there are ripple effects, right? Like dropping a rock into a placid lake. One big, rule that we're supposed to follow. And then there's all of these implications. One big return to office rock, all of these ripple implications. And then fear, of course, is asking what's in danger? What feels unsafe? Now, I want to remind us that the negative emotions don't have to outweigh the positive emotions. And we want to be really cautious that my emotional experience, even what you're putting in the chat, some of you are having very different emotional experience than others. So, contentment, hope, joy, connectedness. Some people are actually experiencing more connectedness in the midst of stress, right? Sort of a we're in this together. So the takeaway here is that you have permission, right? Maybe you're feeling these positive emotions. That's okay. Maybe someone else is feeling those positive emotions. That's okay. There's no right or wrong. That's the takeaway. So just some metaphors. I understand, and many people are not experiencing the positives yet either. Sometimes emotions are like waves. If you've been to the ocean and you've had that experience of a wave, coming over you, and then you come back up to the surface to get your air, it can feel like that. I also like comparing emotions to weather. In fact, those days where it's like the sun is shining and the rain is coming down all at the same time, that's how emotions can be too. It's not often that we're only experiencing one thing at a time. It's more often we're experiencing multiple emotions at a time. Hail, there you go. Beautiful weather metaphor. Again, no right or wrong. They have much to tell you, but you need to acknowledge them. We've got to make space for what's going on in there. Talked about inside out. So, emotionally, just a quick check here. These are maybe some mini self assessments for you. Not feeling in control, thinking, right? A lot of people are talking about the emotion is consuming so much energy. I don't know where my keys are. I forgot to bring my lunch today. All the things, because so much energy is being expended emotionally. Maybe feeling numb, right? Maybe there's just, it doesn't seem like anything going on emotionally. Avoidance. I would encourage you not to do that, right? So having a safe space, even if it's just your journal or a digital journal, and making space to acknowledge the emotions. So when that gets ramped up, we see negative changes in behavior. So I'm hearing a lot of this in many of my conversations too. When stress picks up to such extent, sometimes our bad behaviors come out, right? Mine included. And I'm not as patient and I'm not as present or responsive. So again, I'm just acknowledging what we're experiencing. That doesn't mean we want to continue doing that, right? We want to be aware of when that's happening, but we certainly need grace for ourselves and each other.
And Natalie, I would just say that it just seems that just reading all the chat comments that it's very obvious that we're all going through an adjustment period. So
Hmm.
adjusting these emotions, because I agree with Jacqueline that every day is a different emotion or reaction depending on what email we get or, or what phone call we get or what's on today's agenda. So I think right now we're definitely in a situation of adapting and transition.
That's right. And so that's the weather factor, right? That the weather might change by lunch and it might change by this afternoon, and my weather is different than your weather. Um, and that, that liminal space phrase that I mentioned, when we talk about change management, it's very structure, process, steps. But change management talks about, our transitional state and it talks about future state. And I just don't think that right now change management is capturing everything because we don't see the future state. So I want to make space for this feeling of liminal space, which is ambiguous and uncomfortable for everyone. That's a great reminder, Joanne, about not taking things personally. And again, if we remember some of the things that I'm reminding us all about, this will help us not to get hooked emotionally, right? When someone's weather may have just brought a thunderstorm, we know what's going on with that. Great reminder. So that's basically what I've summed up here. Your emotions are not my emotions. We're navigating this differently. People cope in different ways. I want to be really aware and extend grace to others' emotional process. Someone may be snappy. That might be me tomorrow. So I want to shift a little bit to mindset here because what can happen, and again, resilience, we like talking about resilience. It isn't super awesome going through what it takes to build real resilience, which is what is happening right now. But I want to present some what I call attitude obstacles and see if any of these resonate. Again, I'm putting lots of examples here. Just choose one that may resonate with your own experience. I can't handle it. I just can't handle change. I will never recover if whatever that is. I just can't function outside of my usual way of doing things. There's nothing I can do about this. I have no control over my future. This one's very dangerous. Uncertainty must mean bad, right? There's some storytelling. It's easy to put that equal sign in there when things are so ambiguous and we work so hard because our brain doesn't super love ambiguity and we fill in those blanks pretty quickly. Oh, if I just don't think about it, don't feel about it, it won't affect me. No one can know how the situation is affecting me. Also dangerous. I am the only one who can. Needs of those I'm supporting are more important than my own. A lot of my leaders fall into this trap. So, again, just illustrating some of those mindset traps or obstacles of belief that can really start interfering when we're dealing with stress and big change. I want you to think about not the change that's happening right now, but I want you to look back over the course of your life and when when have you, and you don't have to put this in the chat, this is just for you, but I want you to reflect on a time that you've navigated a change before. If you want to put this in the chat, you can, but I know I'm asking a very personal question and we just met. So if you don't want to, that's okay. This is for you. When in your life have you navigated a change? Everyone is doing it right now. Before right now, when did you navigate a change?
So you got a couple responses. Divorce, accepting my first supervisory position, moving, having kids, retiring from the military. Again, divorce is common when somebody had a
Hmm.
loss or death in the family, or death of a parent. Relocating, I can relate to that. I've done that far too many times during this rift period.
Hmm.
Again, so yeah, a lot of similarities when it comes to
Yeah.
divorce, birth of children, losing loved ones, starting a new journey, new diagnosis, health concerns. So yeah, pretty similar.
So some big, I mean, this is big life stuff that you're referring to. So next question, how did you do that?
Day by day, it took time and effort, prayer, encouragement from loved ones. Um, one foot in, one foot out. Again, just taking it step by step, being present,
Yeah.
staying focused, giving themselves grace, which I think a lot of us forget to do. Give ourselves
Yes.
that grace. Some people said they made a plan, planned it. Sometimes
Hmm.
you just do it. right? Depending on the nature of the significance of the change. Um, so yeah, pretty pretty similar.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing lots of references to faith. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people set those coping strategies aside in big change. And so maybe that's your takeaway is recovering one of these coping strategies that has been really helpful for you in the past. Thank you all, by the way, for putting those ideas out there. I wanted to share just a couple of things that are leadership specific, but again, I think these are applicable to all of us. Um, and here are some things that don't work. Uh, just working more hours, right? That would be one of those avoidance strategies. Blaming, catastrophizing, judging, right? How other people are responding or not responding. And then falling into the illusion of full control, right? So we can take that two different ways. I'm in complete control or I have no control, right? Equally unhelpful traps. So, what do I say, right? A lot of leaders are really challenged with what do I say to my team? What do I say to people? So, just some ideas here. The truth. And maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe it's, here's what I do know. The most important thing on this list is acknowledge. Even if I'm in a different emotional space, even if I'm in a different mindset space, I can at least acknowledge, wow, it sounds like, you know, things are really loading up for you. It's very frustrating. I don't need to get into my own experience. I don't even have to agree with this person's experience. Acknowledging doesn't have to mean I'm co-signing or agreeing, but it can really kind of take the intensity out of a situation. Um, I can't share that right now, right? Again, thinking about the leader response, let me get back to you. Maybe it's a question. How are you doing? Right? Sometimes people, we talked about how, crisis and change brings out not so great behavior sometimes. Acknowledgement can diffuse that. Turning it into a question can diffuse that. So I want to share, these are actually from the Schwartz Center, and it's a stress first aid protocol. And again, just to kind of put some tools in your own toolkit, or maybe things that you want to share with your colleagues and team members. But this is called the 5 C's, and I think it's really helpful. The first C is cover. How has this affected your sense of safety? Connect. How is this change impacting your ability or willingness to connect with others? For me personally, I'm actually highly introverted by nature. I've got to be really careful. I tend to withdraw, I tend to hunker down, and I've got to be very intentional to reach out for a text, get my own support. Calm. What's disrupting your calm? Sleep is typically what comes up here. Competence. This is a great C for those who are leading to ask. Do you have concerns about your ability to handle any part of this? And again, logistically, right? Are there things, resources, tools, equipment, etc., that we can shore up competence for people? And then confidence. Is there a change in your confidence in yourself, leadership, equipment, etc.? So again, we may not have answers to all of these, but it can be helpful to give people a framework, right, that they can use similarly to that wheel of life, but a framework of questions that they can ask. This also informs how we can resource and equip ourselves and other people. So I thought it would be fun to share my top resilient strategy with you. I live in East Tennessee, very close to the Appalachian Trail, and that is where I go with my little rescue dog named Chewy, short for Chewbacca, named by my 10-year-old. And that is where I go. And this is what I do for my own resilient strategy. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, he is. He's a she-chi. We never even heard of that before. Anyway, moving on. So let me summarize some more tools for you. Those 5 C's, that's strategy number 1. And then the follow-up might be, okay, which of your 5 C's is most difficult right now? What is within your control? So let's not forget the basics. Um, our recreation routine, food choices, right? A lot of people in big change and stress either stop eating or they overeat or somewhere in between. Reminding yourself to be clear and authentic in your own interactions. We don't have control over other people. Part of this is modeling, especially if you're in a leadership position. How can I still show up authentically? Here's that prioritizing social connections. Absolutely, Eric. I'm happy for this to be emailed. And again, giving and receiving support on any given day. Maybe I need to receive more support on any given day. Maybe I'm feeling a little stronger. Maybe I'm feeling a little more confident. I want to lend support. The goal is being intentional about that. There's a lot here. And again, these are questions that I want you to continue asking yourself. Maybe bring these into discussions if you're leading a meeting or a team discussion. But again, starting with your own self assessment. Number one, how do I communicate trust in my colleagues, right? Something that's a common experience is a feeling of betrayal. That comes up in a lot of my conversations. It feels like such a betrayal. Um, and we want to ensure that we're maintaining trust. We're on the same team. So am I communicating trust in my colleagues? Am I showing up as trustworthy? And how am I doing that? Number 2, safety, weaving back in those 5 C's. Am I safe? Am I supporting a sense of safety? Sharing, there's that compassion, extending forgiveness when necessary, because I'm going to need it too. Maybe this is sharing resources. Maybe, I mean, I would love for you to share ideas from, that's the whole point of this time together, is to share some things that may be helpful to someone. Maintaining focus. So big picture priorities, helping each other manage expectations, right? So if in fact all this emotional energy is being spent navigating change and cognitive load is real for everyone, can we manage expectations somehow about how many new initiatives we're going to start, about how many projects we're going to start right now? Let's reconsider that. Clarify. Are there rumors or misunderstandings that you can help clarify or prevent spreading? Yeah, thank you, Diane. Sharing something you need, information, logistical support. Again, there's those 5 C's, right? The competence, the confidence. So back to this wave metaphor, we are riding it. So even visualizing yourself riding the change wave, maybe, right? We go under for a minute, it washes over us. We're getting back on the board and we're riding it. Just like this. I also want to remind us that at some point we will restore calm. The waves don't last forever, right? Think about all those changes that you have navigated historically. You're on the other side of those. And all of those amazing coping resources and things that you did in those seasons that you talked about, you have access to those still. Some of you noted some of these. I saw in the comments that first one, how much information you are ingesting. Just keep tabs on that. It is very easy to go down rabbit holes of dashboards and Reddit and all of the things. So use caution. Uh, Reflecting on any of the questions that I posed today, that's an action. That is a doing. I also like to remind people that personal transformation happens in the waiting. You and others gain from your commitment to being your best self. And don't lose sight of other areas in your life where you derive purpose and meaning. Again, so much of our identities are in our work. We are a mission driven enterprise. So maybe the takeaway is, what's my big picture purpose? What's my big picture meaning? And are there other ways that I can express that and live that out? Yes, information overload is very real. I really want to, I'd like to change the word change here to waiting, because I think that better captures this idea. I wrote an article on LinkedIn about this, by the way, on liminal space, but waiting is refining resilience and realization. And I love the metaphor of the cocoon. You can't open the cocoon prematurely. The butterfly cannot function. We don't know how long. We don't know how uncomfortable. It is cramped. It is dark. We don't like it. And that's how resilience happens. So that is my final thought here. And I am happy to shift to a Q&A.
Yeah, so at this time, please feel free to drop any questions you may have in the chat. Again, thank you, Dr. Pickering, for this excellent presentation. I'm really excited about the intercessions because that's when she's really going to dive in with you all. So at this time, feel free to type anything in the chat. We got a couple extra minutes. You're getting a lot of praises. I think this will not be your last dance with us. I will have to bring you back for sure because this was
Absolutely.
amazing. And again, I resonate with a lot that you're talking about because I am navigating change. Oh, yes, we're going to talk about intercessions. Next slide, please, so I can go over
Sure.
the parts. So
Whoops.
again, connect. No, we can stay right here. I wanted to connect. Yeah, I definitely want you all to
Okay.
connect with Dr. Pickering. She is on LinkedIn. That's a huge platform she uses. So definitely, if you have a LinkedIn account, follow her. Also follow me too. I'm on LinkedIn. But again, she also does TED. She's a TED speaker. She's an author for one of her books called Leading Becomes You. So definitely check out that book. ICF Executive Coach. If you've ever heard of Gallup, he's a strength coach. She is certified in that. Hogan certified. She's also a lover of mountains, and she kind of talked about that with the picture of her dog. She enjoys coffee. I'm not going to ask you what flavor because I could open up a can. She's a lover of chocolate and white cheddar popcorn, which is very specific.
But
You know, no.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I don't eat those together. So the white cheddar popcorn and the coffee and the chocolate, I don't eat them at the same time. Point
All
of
separate.
clarification.
Excellent, because we were going to have a health conversation after this. Awesome. So next
Right.
slide, please. So again, I know you all are very, very eager about the intercessions. Here's the deal. We only have Miss Dr. Pickering for 2 more sessions. She's only available 2 more times this month, so May 13th and the 14th. As you can see, we've increased the seats from 25 to 40. So I will immediately after this training concludes, what happens is that I will go in and certify you all for attending this training, and then I will send an email follow up that gives you the TMS numbers to begin to reserve your seats for these intercessions next week. So tell a friend to tell a friend to join these intercessions. It's going to be, again, you will not be on mute. You will get to engage and be on camera, and Dr. Pickering will be there to answer any questions. Um, Next slide, please. And I just dropped the survey link for today's session. Again, I really want to hear from you all on what if will intercessions be recorded? No, they will not be recorded. Those sessions are not recorded. However, Sarah, if it is at 41, I will let you in. I'm not that kind of person. So, yes, I'm not going to be too picky. So if it gets to over 40, we will go from there. But here's today's survey link. Really want to hear from you all and what you want to see in the Seed series. I will be sending out an email that has the attachment for the slides that were presented today, the material. So intercessions, again, it's a conversation. So Dr. Pickering will have her presentation, whether she goes over and does a recap of the lesson from today. However, she will also have time to open up conversation and facilitate conversation with you all. Any
Yeah,
other
my goal
question?
for, I'm so sorry, Nafi, but I can speak a little bit into that. My goal for those sessions is maybe to do a little more deep dive on your self-assessment with your relationship with change, bring that to light a little bit, and then navigating team conversations, those kinds of things. So for those who do attend, please bring your questions for next week.
Yes, thank you. Again, intercessions are for you and tailored for you all, so it requires your participation in that engagement and definitely being on camera because you are not able to have those features during the lecture session. So want it to be an intimate, conversational type of, setting. Again, it's not recorded. We want to make sure that you feel psychologically safe in those environments, so we will not record intercessions. Perfect, perfect. Our VA issued an option? I'm not sure what that means.
I don't think we're there yet, Christy.
That's new. I was like, I've never seen that. Okay. It's probably not in this year's budget. No problem. All right. Awesome. So, thank you all. We'll conclude today's meeting. And again, we look forward to seeing you signing up for the intercessions. Thank you all. Take care. Be safe.